Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us remotely and from across the region and potentially the nation today. The purpose of this bidders conference is to provide an opportunity for potential bidders for the New England Heat Pump Accelerator Evaluator to ask any questions or clarifications they might wish on the request for proposals. Next slide, please. And before we dig into it, I'll introduce myself. My name is Erin Cosgrove. I'm the Director of Policy and Programs at Northeast Energy Efficiency Partnerships, and we're here supporting Connecticut Deep on this proposal. So you see myself and Tara from my team on this presentation today as well. But back into the details of the webinar today. So after some welcoming remarks and a few disclaimers and reminders that we'll share with the group, we'll plan to give a brief overview of the Accelerator program and of the request for proposal. Then we'll plan to spend the majority of the time on questions. So as you can see here, a little outline for the agenda for today. But before we get started, I'd like to invite Jennifer Gottlieb Al-Zahari of Connecticut Department of Energy and Environment to give a few words of welcome. Jennifer.
Thanks, Erin. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Elizari, a member of the New England Heat Pump Accelerator team here at the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, or DEEP. On behalf of our team and Commissioner Katie Dykes, I want to thank you for joining today's bidders conference for the New England Heat Pump Accelerator. So thank you for your interest in supporting this work. The Accelerator represents a first of its kind multi-state approach to accelerating heat pump adoption across New England. It is supported by EPA's Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program. Evaluation will play an important role in ensuring accountability, learning, and continuous improvement as this program moves forward. It will also help us to understand the impacts of the accelerator on the heat pump market in New England. Today's meeting will be hosted by our conveners, Tara McElhenney and Erin Cosgrove of the Northeast Energy Efficiency Partnership, and Emily Levin of the Northeast States for Coordinated Air Use Management. We appreciate your engagement and look forward to your questions. I'll turn it back now to walk through the agenda and housekeeping.
Excellent. Thank you, Jennifer. So before we dive into the New England Heat Pump Accelerator, a couple disclaimers. First, all verbal representations, including items discussed during today's bidder conference, do not preempt or otherwise alter what is written in the documents. Facilitators today will provide verbal responses where possible. Additionally, all questions asked today, both verbal and written, will be included in the final response to questions that will be published next week on February 25th. We do want to strongly recommend that if you do ask questions today, both verbal and written, that you also consider submitting these questions via email to deep.energybureau@ct.gov. We'll post that email a few times throughout the presentation, and it's included in the RFP. And this way we can just be sure to really answer any questions that come up today and clarify anything that might have also come up. And then also, I just would like to add that any preliminary responses provided at the meeting today are not binding and may be updated in the written responses. And just the final bullet on the page there to emphasize that bidders should rely on the written responses that DEEP will provide by February 25th. And apologies for the date there. And next slide, please. Okay, and then finally, some reminders. First off, the meeting is being recorded. The recording and slides will be posted on DEEP's New England Heat Pump Accelerator webpage. We will also email all the attendees recording and slides as a follow-up. You are on mute, but please remain on mute when you are not speaking. We will enable the attendees to raise your hand and ask questions after we go through our presentation. As you can see, the chat has been disabled for this session, but we invite you to ask questions during today's conference by raising your hand or entering your question into the Zoom Q&A box. We will explain this process at the start of Q&A, but please note that all questions asked during this conference will be a part of the record, and any questions we are not able to answer today will be addressed in the published Q&A next week. Thank you, and now I'd like to invite Tara McElhenney to kick off the proposal overview.
Thank you, Erin. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tara McElhenney, manager on our policy and programs team here at NEEP, and looking forward to hearing all of your questions. So we can go ahead and advance to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the New England Heat Pump Accelerator is a regional program to speed up the heat pump adoption in homes across Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island. The program aims to accomplish several goals, including overcoming systemic barriers to electrification, making heat pumps standard practice in HVAC and water heating, and raising heat pump sales to the point of 65% of HVAC and water heating sales by 2030 and 90% by 2040, and deliver long-term greenhouse gas reductions for the region. And this is a $450 million regional program funded by the EPA's Climate Pollution Reduction Grant implementation grants, with Connecticut DEEP as the lead applicant. Next slide, please. So this regional program relies on strong collaboration and a unique governance structure. So DEEP is the lead applicant and grant recipient, and the program is governed by a coalition of 5 New England states through an advisory council consisting of members from each of the state agencies involved in the accelerator. This includes Connecticut DEEP, Maine Department of Energy Resources, Efficiency Maine, Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources, New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, and the State of Rhode Island Office of Energy Resources. These 5 states serve on an advisory council that oversees and guides the work of the regional implementer and evaluator while still preserving the evaluator's independence. A regional implementation team led by VEIC has primary responsibility to implement the accelerator programs, including operating all 3 hubs of the program, which we will go over in the next slide, and coordinating with existing programs and any state designees. So it's important to note that Efficiency Maine is a state designee implementer for Maine, with all Market Hub activities in Maine and Innovation Hub state grants in Maine being implemented by Efficiency Maine. NEEP serves as the regional convener under contract to DEEP with support provided by NESCOM. And as you can see, we do not have an established regional evaluator yet. Next slide, please. To give an idea of how this program will be implemented, we have here the 3 main hubs of the program: the Market Hub, Innovation Hub, and the Resource Hub. The Market Hub aims to make heat pumps and heat pump water heaters easier to sell, install, and afford with pass-through incentives, contractor training, and sales support. The Innovation Hub will fund state pilots and community grants that overcome barriers to heat pump adoption so that everyone can access clean, efficient home comfort. The Resource Hub will give businesses and organizations practical tools like calculators, heat pump sales data, and information sheets for customers that can support heat pump adoption. The combination of these program activities are built to support our market transformation goals by addressing market barriers, using data to continuously improve the program, and developing a long-term strategic plan for the region. And again, you'll see some asterisks on the Market Hub and Innovation Hub as a reminder that Efficiency Maine will be the implementer for Maine's Market Hub activities and Innovation Hub state grants, while the VEIC implementation team will implement the rest of the program activities. We're really looking forward to onboarding an experienced evaluator team to support this program. So I will pass it back to Erin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tara. And now I will invite Emily Levin to come on and talk a little bit more about what's in the Evaluator RFP.
Yeah, thanks, Erin and Tara. I'm happy to be with you all today. I'm going to just share a little more context about the role, scope, and expectations for the evaluator for the New England Heat Pump Accelerator program. All of this is information contained in the RFP itself, but just wanted to reiterate a few things to set the stage for whatever questions you may have. You can go to the next slide. So we do have a regional implementer, as you've heard, who is in charge of administering the programs, pilots, and incentives. They're the ones coordinating directly with market actors, particularly distributors, retailers, contractors, manufacturers. They are also collecting full category heat pump sales data from participating distributors that will be available for the evaluator to interpret. They will play a central role in supporting the reporting that DEEP and the team is doing to EPA. Um, in contrast, the evaluator will be an independent third party charged with evaluating the program. They will assess market transformation, they'll support reporting, they'll provide feedback for continuous improvement. We'll talk about that more. Both the evaluator and the implementer are under contract to DEEP, and both are overseen by DEEP and the Advisory Council and supported by the regional conveners, NEEP and NESCOM. So there's sort of a parallel structure there, but both are reporting to DEEP, and the evaluator is not under the umbrella of the implementer, or vice versa. Next slide. So here's where we wanted to talk a little bit about what this evaluation is and what it is not. The evaluation of the accelerator really centers on understanding how the accelerator is influencing the regional heat pump market over time and providing timely feedback to support continuous improvement and to support the program's reporting needs. One thing that's important to share is that EPA did not require program evaluation as a standard component of the climate pollution reduction grant. This is something that we chose to do and allocated funding for because we thought it was important to support the overall success of the program and to demonstrate the program outcomes. But we do have a lot of flexibility to design an evaluation framework that meets our needs. We are very focused on market evaluation and do not expect at this time to get into some types of evaluation that you might be familiar with from the energy efficiency world, such as savings verification, impact evaluation, and net to gross studies and details of attribution methods. There could be some tangential work on these topics, but the main focus is market evaluation and process evaluation. For the market evaluation, the market studies will examine the regional trends, looking at things like heat pump market share, distributor and contractor participation, and practices and impressions of heat pumps, equipment availability and pricing, changes in sales and installation practices. We're really looking at how this program is influencing the market overall in the region. It will also play a role in process evaluation, providing real-time actionable feedback to support program learning and improvement. One of our expectations here is a learning-oriented embedded evaluation approach. So very much coordinating with the implementer regularly, sharing interim findings and feedback, supporting program adjustments over time. We're not looking at to hold all the evaluation till the end of the program and then deliver a large report. We're looking for this to be very much ongoing and continuous throughout the program lifespan. Another note here is that we're also mindful that the accelerator is coordinating with and layering with a number of state and utility programs across the region, all of which have their own evaluation and EM&V requirements. The evaluator is not going to duplicate that work. It's not going to assess the performance of individual state programs to reevaluate program-specific design or implementation details. It's going to, again, focus on regional market transformation. So there could be some nexus with understanding those programs, but we're really not trying to duplicate efforts with evaluation work that's already being done in the region. Okay, next slide. So a few other key expectations that I wanted to highlight. One thing that I definitely wanted to make sure that prospective bidders understand is you saw in the RFP that we are asking bidders to propose an evaluation framework, including the specific studies, the number of individual studies, high level focus and scale for each study. We again have a lot of flexibility here. We're not locked into an extremely prescribed way of doing this. So we're looking for our evaluator to really be a thought partner and leader in guiding how evaluation can be most impactful and effective within the context of this program and assessing the market transformation impacts of the program. That is, that will help us identify which evaluator team we want to select for the program. So we want to see what your ideas are. It's not going to be set in stone, though. You see that the first task is developing an evaluation plan. So the assumption would be that we would take some elements of the proposal that you offer and refine that into an evaluation plan that the evaluator would deliver as their first deliverable. There's also an expectation that there's a lot of collaboration with the whole program team. So with the regional implementer, with the advisory council, with DEEP, with the conveners, to refine the evaluation plan as we go. And so what we're envisioning is that the evaluation plan will be updated annually, at least developed in 2026 and updated in 2027 and 2028 to capture what are the evaluation studies happening this year? What are the priorities and questions that the team collectively wants to answer? So the evaluator will obviously be a key voice in recommending how to handle that in the most impactful way. We also want to stress the importance of avoiding duplicative efforts. This relates both to data collection. The regional implementer will be also has a market transformation responsibility and is collecting a lot of data and doing a lot of work around that. So the evaluator will be supplementing that and leveraging that, but not duplicating it. In particular, the regional implementer will be collecting full category sales data for the space conditioning, heat pump, and the water heating market. So we will be able to understand heat pump market share over time, and there will be a coordination piece there. They will also have participation agreements, the distributors will, with the implementer, and some of the contractors and others participating in trainings will be interacting with the implementer. We want to avoid unnecessary burden on those market actors wherever possible and leverage information that the implementer is already collecting or touch points that are already present in the program. We want to be mindful about the amount of data we're asking for. We also want to coordinate regionally. So as I mentioned previously, we're not looking to duplicate or evaluate programs that already have their own evaluation plans, but we are looking to leverage data and insights from those evaluations and make them available through the resource hub and also to understand the impacts of this program more broadly. So a lot of coordination, a lot of focus on streamlining and being judicious about how we collect data and how we interact with the market and with customers. Key deliverables, again, this is all in the RFP, but we are asking the evaluator to provide a plan for evaluation each year, which will then be updated in collaboration with all the team members that we mentioned. There will be specific market evaluation and process evaluation studies, which will have report deliverables, draft deliverables, and coordination. There will be 3 annual evaluation reports and a final report. And that isn't necessarily the result of one particular study, but just documenting what's been accomplished and what we've learned from the evaluation efforts over the course of that year. That's an EPA reporting requirement and something we do need to adhere to. There will be various presentations to the advisory council and to stakeholder groups, which we can talk about more. There will be some public-facing webinars. At least we anticipate one annual webinar to kind of share insights from the program overall, kind of an annual update and progress report that the evaluator may participate in. So those are some of the key expectations that we just wanted to emphasize and reiterate. Again, hopefully nothing too new here because this was all information in the RFP, but just wanted to make sure everybody had a common foundation before we move to the Q&A. And with that, I'll turn it back to the NEEP team to walk through some of the logistics around the proposal process.
Great. Thank you, Emily. And now that we've heard what the RFP is seeking in an evaluator, I'll invite Tara from the NEEP team to come back on to provide details on how bidders can submit proposals and what to expect after submission.
Thanks, Erin. All right, so the final part of today's presentation, before we get into Q&A, is a brief overview of the proposal budget, structure, and evaluation criteria. It is, again, information that's laid out in the RFP, but hopefully provides some clarifying information. Next slide, please. So the anticipated budget of this contract will be $3.5 million over 3.5 years. And the contract duration is expected to be June 2026 through October 2029. We ask that the main body of the proposal submission does not exceed 25 pages in length. This is not including cover page, executive summary, table of contents, nor appendices or attachments. And bidders should, when submitting proposals, use the state of Connecticut's contracting portal, which does require registration. So be sure to check out the details on that in the RFP. Any questions that you have can be submitted to deep.energybureau@ct.gov by 5 p.m. tomorrow. Next slide. A few more notes on the submission process. Eligible bidders are required to organize their proposal consistent with submission instructions that are set forth in Part 4 of the RFP. On the organization and contents of the proposal should be organized for Section 4, and Appendix C also includes a proposal checklist for bidders to keep you on track. Proposals must also use the budget template provided. And again, please make sure to use the DAS State Contracting Portal CT Source. And this is the link here, but I believe Sarah just also posted the link. And all information submitted to DEEP is subject to the Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA. So as such, if a bidder believes that a portion or portions of information submitted in the proposal are exempt from FOIA disclosure, then the bidder must submit one complete redacted version of the proposal for public posting, which must be clearly labeled public, and one complete unredacted version of the proposal for the evaluation team's review, which must clearly be labeled confidential. DEEP will not redact the proposal. Anything submitted without a clear confidential label will be available to the public. Next slide. And here are some of the important dates regarding the RFP. So the RFP was released on February 3rd. Today, February 17th, we're hosting the Bidders Conference. And following this, the deadline to submit written questions to DEEP will be tomorrow, February 18th at 5 p.m. Eastern. DEEP will then release answers to these questions on their Accelerator webpage by February 25th, next week. And the proposal due date is March 13th, 2026. DEEP will designate a review committee to evaluate the proposals submitted in response to this RFP, and DEEP may conduct virtual interviews with the top-ranked proposers based on the review committee's evaluation. And just to note that these interviews are tentatively scheduled for April 6th through 10th. Then after this, proposer selection will occur in April to May, with the start of the contract expected to be in June of this year. but please note that future dates are tentative and subject to change. Next slide. All right. So as is outlined in the RFP, the proposal will be evaluated based on the criteria and weights on this table here. Organizational profile and experience will account for 30% of a proposal score. Strategy and work plan is 35%. Financial and data management is 10% of the score. And then budget and cost competitiveness is 25% of the score. You can see on the right a few bullets on the summary of requirements and criteria, and these are all outlined in the RFP itself. Next slide. As previously mentioned, DEEP will select a review committee to serve as the proposal evaluation team. This team will be composed of DEEP staff and staff from the advisory council members and other designees as deemed appropriate. So this includes Maine Department of Energy Resources and Efficiency Maine Trust, Massachusetts DOER, New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, Rhode Island Office of Energy Resources, and DEEP. The review committee will evaluate all proposals that meet the minimum submission requirements using the evaluation criteria we previously showed. And the review committee will make recommendations for awards based on the ranking and scoring of proposals. And following interviews will rescore top proposals according to the evaluation criteria. And the final selection of a successful proposer is at the discretion of the DEEP commissioner. This process will be supported by NEEP and NESCOM, with each organization having just a supporting role with no voting role in the selection of the evaluator. All right, and with that, thank you very much for joining today. We look forward to answering any questions you may have. So I will invite Erin back to get us started.
Awesome. Thank you, Tara and Emily, for the proposal overview. And now we're going to open it up for questions. Next slide. Before we get started, a couple logistics. First, I'll just repeat again that all verbal representations, including items discussed during the bidders conference today, do not preempt or otherwise alter what is written in the documents. And we will provide verbal responses where possible. And then additionally, all questions that are asked today will be included in the final response to questions that will be published next week. Also, that we do strongly recommend that in addition to your questions today, to submit questions via email to deep.energybureau@ct.gov as directed in the RFP. So now that the logistics are out of the way, just so everyone understands the order for the questions, we'll encourage everyone to anyone who would like to say their questions out loud to unmute yourself. You can raise your hand, or sorry, we ask you to raise your hands and then I will unmute you. So you can raise your hand by using the reaction button at the bottom of the Zoom screen. You can click the button once, and then once you do that, you'll be on mute until your name is called. At that point, I'll hit a button that will temporarily unmute you, and you'll see a box pop up to say that you have permission to talk. It'll be a blue unmute button. And then you'll be able to ask your question. What I do ask is if you are asking questions out loud, to please introduce yourself and the organization that you're representing. We will take questions in the order hands are raised. And then after we go through any questions from hands that are raised, we'll turn to the Q&A and go through those questions. So with that, I invite anyone to please raise your hands if you have questions for the team. Okay, I see, I believe Michaela has raised their hand, so I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk.
Hi, good morning. Michaela Johnke from Guidehouse. Thank you so much for the presentation. I have a question regarding the client references in the RFP. For those formatted, are you looking for the contact name, their contact information, and a summary of the services we provided to a client, or are you looking for like a letter of reference provided by that reference?
I can try to answer this one, and maybe Deep can correct me if I misstate anything, or we will clarify in the written responses. But my understanding is that we just are looking for the name of the reference and their contact information, and we don't need a letter or an extensive description of the services provided.
Thank you.
Okay, and just to let everyone know, we'll wait until about 10:40 in case you are putting questions together for any questions. So please, again, feel free to raise your hand or put anything into the Q&A, and we'll just hang out for a little bit. Okay, Alyssa, I see that you raised your hand, so I'm going to allow you to talk.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you all for the presentation today. I have a quick question about the engagement model. And if we could go back, I know you mentioned that there will be a lot of state-based evaluation efforts going on in tandem. Can you talk a little bit about the extent or level of engagement with the implementation teams at the state level and what the expectation is or what the desired vision is for that engagement that both is mindful of asking for additional data requests, but also trying to get that macro comprehensive evaluation for the overall program, and how you envision that.
I was thinking maybe NEEP could start by sharing an overview of the type of engagements already going on with the implementation teams for other programs in the region, and then maybe I could talk a little about how that feeds into evaluation.
Thank you.
Sure. So, sorry, Emily, did you say to start with the engagement groups or any
Not
engagement
the
groups?
engagement groups, but could you just talk about how NEEP and the implementer have been engaging with the program implementers in the region?
Yes, sure. So the program implementers are engaging closely with program administrators to make sure that the accelerator is sort of seamlessly plugging in to the region's existing programs. And so um, the evaluator would be expected to work with the implementer on sort of already understanding what is being done and then complementing it by synthesizing the evaluation results from other programs. And maybe, Emily, you could touch on that.
Yeah, and I also wanted to add that through the advisory council, all of the states are represented, and so the states are also helping with that. You know, they're obviously very aware of which programs are active in their states and are supporting that type of coordination, and any issues that arise can be surfaced through the advisory council. There have been a lot of one-on-one meetings between the implementation team and individual states that NEEP has supported and as well. So a lot of that coordination is happening through the program implementation process, which is obviously we're still in sort of the launch phase. In terms of how that funnels into evaluation, I do think I don't envision that it would be appropriate for the evaluator to place any evaluation requirements on any of the implementation vendors in the region. So, for example, we're not expecting this evaluator to be telling Mass Save, to submit data to them or collect specific data or do anything different than what they are already doing. I think the evaluator's role would be to work with the regional implementer for the accelerator and with the team to understand the coordination that's happening and the landscape in the region, and to potentially leverage, just using the Mass Save example, the myriad evaluation studies that Mass Save may already be doing for heat pump programs, which could have relevance to sort of understand the broader landscape. But our specific evaluation would be focused on the accelerators activities and interventions. So yeah, we're not looking to reevaluate or put any additional burden on those existing state and utility programs.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. And while others are thinking of potential questions, we did get a logistical question in the Q&A that I'll just read out loud so everyone can get the benefit of an answer to it. And this is formatting for Connecticut Deep. Do tables and figures need to follow the formatting rule times New Roman 12-point font, 1.5 line spacing, etc.? And Jen, I'll toss that to you.
Sure, that we would appreciate you complying with that formatting structure. Thank you.
Okay, great. And we had another one come into the Q&A, and I think this might be a combination of Connecticut Deep and I think NEEP and maybe NESCOM could also support. But the question is, the RFP references key accelerator milestones as a guideline for the timing of evaluation activities. Would this team be able to share those milestones?
Could Deep speak about the availability of the work plan, which is, I think, a public document already that might be helpful to point prospective bidders to?
Yeah, we do have a work plan that is a component of our promises to EPA, but we were a bit delayed in getting our implementer on board. So some of those dates in those work plan might be a little bit outdated, but I think the contract with our implementer is public information. We can certainly, in a question, we can certainly give some information about the milestones in the accelerator that we have in that contract as part of our response.
Yeah, and I would say the work plan will be helpful for understanding the major activities and milestones. The specific dates may be slightly different. We have some flexibility to adjust those slightly within the context of the program. So yeah, I would anticipate we will follow up on this when we respond to the questions and see if we can potentially reattach the work plan for bidders to reference or point you to where it's already posted. But I think that'll be the most helpful resource for understanding that.
Thank you for those responses. And again, we'll wait just 5 minutes in case any other questions come up in either the chat or if anyone does raise their hand. Okay, I'm going to do one final call for questions before we wrap up. Okay, maybe Sarah, if you want to pull up the slides, if anyone does have any questions that come to them, please feel free to raise your hand. We'll continue to monitor the chat and Q&A, but I'll just go ahead and walk through next steps. Okay, so great. So thank you all for attending today. I just wanted to leave this slide up to reiterate that the deadline for submission of written questions to DEEP is tomorrow, February 18th. DEEP will release responses to the questions on DEEP's website, and will also send an email to all registrants from this webinar with the questions on February 25th, 2026. And then the bid due date will be March 13th, 2026. And if there aren't any other questions that come up, okay, I will thank you all for attending. We're going to just leave up one final slide with directions in case anyone comes on late. But thank you all so much for attending this webinar. Please reach out if you have any questions. And just remember the deadline is tomorrow, February 18th. And this will conclude the official Evaluator Bidder Conference webinar.